Introduction. The command within. Most people wait for motivation. They wait for the right mood, the perfect moment, the surge of energy that makes hard things feel easy. Leaders don't wait. They move first. Because discipline isn't a habit, it's identity. Listen carefully. What you're about to hear isn't another system for productivity. It's not a collection of tips to optimize your morning routine. This is something deeper, something older. Something that lives in the part of you that refuses to negotiate with comfort. You already know what this feels like. You've felt it before. That version of yourself that moves with precision, that speaks with certainty, that makes a decision and follows through without debate, without drama, without the exhausting internal negotiation that drains most people before breakfast. That version of you isn't a fantasy. It's not reserved for elite athletes or military commanders or CEOs with unlimited resources. It's your natural state when you stop betraying yourself with excuses. Discipline is not about force. It never was. It's about remembering who you are when you're not negotiating with comfort, when you're not asking your feelings for permission. When you're not waiting for the world to validate your decisions before you make them. Here's what most people misunderstand. They think discipline is punishment, a grinding, joyless sacrifice that strips life of pleasure. But that's the voice of someone who's never actually experienced true self-command. Real discipline is freedom. It's the calm certainty that comes from knowing you can trust yourself. It's the quiet power of a person who doesn't need to convince themselves to act. They simply decide, and the body follows. This audiobook will rebuild that trust, not through willpower, not through motivation, but through identity. By the time we're done, you'll understand something fundamental. You don't chase motivation. You don't force discipline. You simply remember that you are the commander of your own life, and commanders don't wait for permission to move. You'll stop trying to become disciplined. You'll start remembering that you already are. So, here's what's about to happen. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to dismantle every weak belief you have about self-control. We're going to replace exhausting effort with natural authority. We're going to transform discipline from something you do into someone you are. You'll stop chasing motivation. you'll start obeying your own clarity. You'll rebuild self-trust until action feels natural. You'll lead yourself first, always, because no one can follow someone still negotiating with themselves. This is not inspiration. This is instruction from your future self, the one that already won. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Myth of Motivation. Most people believe motivation comes first. They think desire creates discipline, that you need to feel ready before you act, that somewhere inside you there's a switch that flips from unmotivated to motivated, and once it flips, action becomes easy. This is the myth that keeps millions of people waiting for Monday, waiting for inspiration, waiting to feel different before they were willing to move differently. But here's the truth that separates leaders from followers. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is decision. Emotion is weather. It changes with sleep, with blood sugar, with the last conversation you had. It's unreliable by nature. Some days, it's there. Most days, it's not. And if you're waiting to feel motivated before you act, you've already surrendered command. Discipline is architecture. It doesn't care about weather. A building doesn't collapse because the sun didn't shine. Your commitments shouldn't collapse because you didn't feel inspired. You don't move because you're ready. You move, and readiness follows. Think about the last time you did something hard, really hard. The morning you woke up early when your body screamed for sleep. The workout you completed when every muscle begged to quit. The difficult conversation you had when silence felt safer. Did you wait to feel motivated? Or did you move first and discover that action creates its own momentum? Most people have this backwards. They think motivation fuels action, but action fuels motivation. Movement creates energy. Commitment creates clarity. You act your way into feeling, not the other way around. This is why people who wait for motivation live in perpetual disappointment. They're waiting for a feeling that only arrives after the work begins. They're standing at the edge of the pool, waiting to feel like swimming, not understanding that the desire comes from being in the water. Motivation is a bonus. It's dessert. But discipline is the meal. And here's what nobody tells you. The more you act without motivation, the less you need it. Because you're building something stronger. You're building identity. When discipline becomes who you are, not what you do. Motivation becomes irrelevant. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it. The question doesn't arise. You simply execute, because that's what commanders do. The amateur waits to feel like a professional. The professional acts like one until the feeling catches up. You don't wait to feel brave. You act with courage, and fear fades in the presence of motion. You don't wait to feel confident. You move with precision, and confidence builds with every completed command. Motivation is a follower. Let it chase you. Your job is to move first, to decide first, to command first, because the version of you that's waiting for the perfect feeling will wait forever. The version of you that moves despite the feeling, that version is already leading. Stop asking if you feel ready. Start asking if you've decided. Because once the decision is made, the body has no choice but to follow. You don't move because you're ready. You move, and readiness follows. Chapter 2. Orders over feelings. Your emotions report to you. They don't run the company. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that keeps people trapped in reactivity. They feel anxious, so they avoid. They feel tired, so they quit. They feel uncertain, so they wait. But here's what you need to understand. Feelings are data, not decisions. They're information from your nervous system, useful in context. But they are not commands. You are the commander. Your emotions are scouts. They report what they see on the field: fatigue, fear, frustration, excitement. But they don't choose the strategy. You do. Discipline is self-leadership. And leadership means making decisions based on purpose, not based on comfort. Think about the best leaders you know, the ones who remain steady in crisis, who make hard calls when everyone else is panicking, who hold the line when emotions are screaming to retreat. They're not emotionless. They feel everything you feel. Fear, doubt, exhaustion. But they don't let feelings make decisions. They listen to them, acknowledge them, and then they lead. This is the practice. Speaking to yourself as leader to soldier, not as judge to criminal, not as disappointed parent to failing child, but as general to warrior. I know you're tired. We move anyway. I know this is uncomfortable. we stay anyway. I know you'd rather quit. We finish anyway. This isn't cruelty. This is command. And command is compassionate when it serves the mission. Imagine the morning you don't want to rise. The alarm sounds. Your body is heavy. The bed is warm. Every cell is negotiating for 5 more minutes. Most people lose this battle because they are having a conversation. They're debating with themselves. Should I? Can I just this once? What if I'm too tired? But leaders don't negotiate. They issue orders. We're up. Now. Not harsh. Not emotional. Just clear. Factual. Final. And here's what happens. The body obeys. Not immediately. Not without resistance. But it obeys. Because deep down, every part of you knows who's in charge when the command is issued without hesitation. Your feelings will test you. They always do. They'll present compelling arguments for delay, for exception, for comfort. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes rest is wisdom. Sometimes retreat is strategic. But most of the time, they're just noise. Evolutionary programming designed to conserve energy, avoid discomfort, maintain homeostasis. And you are more than your programming. You are the one who decides when to listen and when to lead, when to honor the signal and when to override it. This is freedom, not the freedom to follow every impulse, the freedom to choose which impulses serve you and which ones keep you small. Freedom isn't built on feelings. It's built on commands. Think about what you've accomplished when you stopped negotiating, when you made the decision final, when you removed the option to quit before you started. That power is always available. It doesn't require motivation. It doesn't require energy. It requires one thing: the willingness to issue the command. Your emotions will adjust. They always do. Once they realize you're not negotiating, they stop fighting. They fall in line. Because even your nervous system respects leadership. Orders over feelings. Always. Not because feelings don't matter, but because they don't lead. You do. Chapter 3. The language of command. Every identity speaks in sentences. The words you use when no one's listening. The language of your internal dialogue. The voice that narrates your life from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep. That voice is not passive. It's not neutral. It's programming. It's building the person you're becoming with every sentence it speaks. Weak identity uses questions. Should I? Can I? What if I fail? Do I really need to? Is this too hard? Am I good enough? Strong identity uses declarations. I do. I am. I will. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is non-negotiable. The difference between these two languages is the difference between a person negotiating with themselves and a person commanding themselves. And here's what you must understand. Every word you whisper to yourself trains your will. If you ask yourself questions before every action, you train hesitation. If you speak in maybes and probabilities, you train doubt. If you frame your commitments as optional, your nervous system treats them as optional. But if you speak in certainty, if you declare rather than debate, your entire system aligns with command. This is not positive thinking. This is not affirmation without action. This is the language of leadership applied to self. Listen to how you speak to yourself today. Really listen. When the alarm goes off, do you say, I should probably get up, or I'm up? When you face difficulty, do you think, I can't do this, or this is hard and I'm doing it? When you commit to something, do you say, I'll try, or I will? The words matter, not because they're magic, but because they reveal and reinforce your relationship with yourself. I'll try is the language of someone leaving an exit door open. I will is the language of someone burning the boats. I should is the language of external pressure. I am is the language of internal authority. Can I is a child asking permission. I do is a commander stating fact. So here's your practice. Rewrite your internal dialogue. When you catch yourself questioning, replace it with declaration. When you catch yourself hedging, replace it with commitment. When you catch yourself speaking like someone seeking permission, speak like someone who already has authority. Because you do. You've always had it. You've just been speaking like you don't. The words you choose in private create the person you become in public. If you want to become disciplined, stop talking about discipline as something you're trying to build. Start speaking as someone who already embodies it. I'm the kind of person who keeps their word. I'm the kind of person who finishes what they start. I'm the kind of person who moves when they say they will. Not someday. Not trying to be. AM. Now, present tense. This isn't delusion. This is decision. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're declaring who you're choosing to be in this moment, and letting your actions align with that declaration. Your identity isn't discovered. It's declared. And then it's proven through consistency. Every command you follow strengthens the declaration. Every promise you keep validates the identity. Every moment you speak with certainty, you train your nervous system to trust your word. So speak carefully. Speak powerfully. Speak as the leader you are, because the language of command creates the reality of command. And the person who speaks with certainty moves with certainty. You don't ask. You declare. You decide. You move. That's the language of leaders. Make it yours. Chapter 4. Integrity over intensity. Intensity starts things. Integrity finishes them. Most people love intensity. The explosive start. The dramatic commitment. The public declaration. The burst of energy that makes anything feel possible. They attack their goals like they're storming a castle. Full force. Maximum effort. Burn the boats. All or nothing. And then, 3 days later, they're exhausted. A week later, they've quit. A month later, they're starting over with the same intensity, convinced this time will be different. But it never is, because intensity burns out. It always does. Discipline isn't fire. It's steel. Fire is dramatic. Fire gets attention. Fire feels powerful. But fire consumes its fuel and dies. Steel is quiet. Steel is patient. Steel doesn't need applause. Steel just endures. You don't rise for a moment. You rise for a lifetime. This is the shift that changes everything, replacing temporary intensity with steady integrity. Integrity is keeping the promise when no one's watching, when it's not exciting, when the newness has worn off and all that's left is the commitment. Intensity says, I'm going to transform my entire life starting Monday. New diet, new workout, new schedule, new me. Integrity says, I'm going to do one thing consistently, And when that's solid, I'll add another. Intensity makes grand plans. Integrity makes micro promises and keeps them. Here's the practice. Identify 3 micro promises: small, daily, non-negotiable. Not, I'm going to work out for 2 hours every day. That's intensity. That's setting yourself up for failure. Try. I will do 10 push-ups every morning before coffee. Not, I'm going to completely overhaul my sleep schedule. Try. I will be in bed with the lights off by 10:30 p.m. Not, I'm going to write a book this year. Try. I will write for 15 minutes every day, no matter what. Small, specific, sustainable. And then, here's the critical part, never break them. Not because breaking them once ruins everything, but because every promise kept builds the identity of someone who keeps promises. And every promise broken trains the opposite. Your nervous system is watching. It's learning whether your word means something, whether commitments are real or just nice ideas, whether you're someone who follows through or someone who renegotiates when things get hard. Intensity impresses others. Integrity impresses yourself and the relationship you have with yourself. The trust, the confidence, the certainty that when you say something, it happens. That's the foundation of everything else. You can't build self-trust on intensity. It's too unstable, too emotional, too dependent on circumstances. But you can build it on integrity. One small promise at a time. One boring, unsexy, consistent action repeated until it becomes who you are. The danger of intensity is that it feels like progress. The adrenaline, the excitement, the sense that you're finally taking massive action. But progress isn't measured in how hard you start. It's measured in whether you're still moving 6 months from now. Intensity is sprinting. Integrity is direction. You can sprint in the wrong direction and end up further from your goals. Or you can walk steadily in the right direction and arrive exactly where you intended. So, let go of the need to be impressive. Let go of the dramatic transformation story. Let go of the idea that discipline looks like maximum effort. Instead, embrace the boring power of showing up, of doing the small thing, of keeping the promise, of being someone whose word to themselves is unbreakable. Because that's not fire. That's steel. And steel doesn't burn out. It just gets stronger with time. Make 3 promises today. Small ones. Keep them. Then do it again tomorrow. That's not exciting. That's not intense. That's just integrity. And integrity is what finishes things. Chapter 5. The Mirror of Accountability. If you can't face your own reflection, you can't lead yourself. Accountability has become a buzzword. People join groups for accountability, hire coaches for accountability, post their goals publicly for accountability. And there's value in that. External accountability works. When someone else is watching, you're more likely to follow through. But here's what most people miss. External accountability is training wheels. It's useful until it becomes a crutch, until you can't move without someone watching, until you need applause to continue. Real power comes from internal accountability, the kind that doesn't need witnesses, the kind that holds you to standard when no one will ever know if you quit. You're not waiting for applause. You're waiting for alignment. Alignment between who you say you are and what you actually do. Between your declared values and your daily actions. Between your words and your behavior. This is the mirror. And most people avoid looking into it, because the mirror shows the truth. It shows the gap between intention and execution. It shows every promise you made and didn't keep, every commitment you declared and abandoned, every standard you set and violated. And that's uncomfortable. So people look away. They make excuses. They tell stories about why this time was different, why the circumstances were unique, why it doesn't really count. But the mirror doesn't negotiate. It just reflects. Here's the line that changes everything. The man who can't keep a promise to himself will always serve someone who can. Read that again. Let it land. If you can't trust yourself, you'll spend your life dependent on others who can trust themselves. You'll need their validation, their structure, their accountability, their permission. You'll be led, not because you're incapable of leading, but because you trained yourself to need external authority. But when you develop internal accountability, when you become the person who keeps their word, even when no one's watching, everything changes. You stop needing permission. You stop needing validation. You stop needing someone else to hold you to your own standards. You become the standard. So how do you build this? How do you develop the kind of internal accountability that makes you unstoppable? You practice facing the mirror. Every day, you ask yourself 3 questions. Did I do what I said I would do? If not, why not? And is that reason acceptable? What am I committing to tomorrow? No judgment, no shame, just honest assessment. Because accountability isn't about punishment. It's about truth. It's about looking clearly at your actions and deciding whether they match your commitments. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes you'll fall short. Sometimes circumstances genuinely intervene. And that's fine. That's human. But you have to look. You have to face it. You have to acknowledge the gap without storytelling it away. Because every time you avoid the mirror, you train self-deception. Every time you make an excuse, you weaken your word. Every time you let yourself off the hook without honest assessment, you teach yourself that your commitments are negotiable. But every time you face the truth, you build integrity. Every time you acknowledge where you fell short and recommit without drama, you strengthen your word. Every time you hold yourself to standard without needing external enforcement, you become someone you can trust. And that trust is everything. It's the foundation of confidence, of certainty, of the quiet power that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. External accountability is borrowed power. Internal accountability is your own. So stop waiting for someone to check on you. Stop needing witnesses to your progress. Stop requiring external validation to keep moving. Become your own accountability. Face your own mirror. Keep your own promises. Not for applause, not for recognition, for alignment. Because when you're aligned, when your actions match your words, when your behavior reflects your values, that's when you stop being led and start being the leader of yourself first. Always. Chapter 6. Discipline as energy management. You're not lazy. You're misaligned. This is the reframe that changes everything about discipline. Most people think discipline is forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. Grinding through exhaustion. Pushing past limits. Maximum effort at all times. But that's not discipline. That's burnout with better marketing. Real discipline is managing energy, not forcing effort. Your state creates your schedule. If you're operating from depletion, even small tasks feel impossible. If you're operating from alignment, hard tasks feel manageable. So the question isn't, how do I force myself to do more? The question is, how do I manage my state so that action feels natural? This is energy management, and it's the most overlooked aspect of self-leadership. Think about your best days. The days when you moved through your tasks with ease, when focus felt effortless, when discipline didn't require willpower because you were simply operating from the right state. What was different? Were you more disciplined? Or were you better resourced? Chances are you slept well. You were hydrated. You had clarity about your priorities. You weren't carrying the weight of unfinished tasks or broken promises. You were aligned. And from alignment, action is easy. Now think about your worst days, when everything felt hard, when simple tasks required massive effort, when you couldn't focus, couldn't execute, couldn't follow through. Were you lazy? Or were you depleted? Most people beat themselves up for low performance without ever asking what created the low state. They try to discipline their way out of depletion. And it doesn't work. It can't work. You can't force your way to sustainable performance. You have to resource your way there. So here's what energy management looks like in practice. Sleep is non-negotiable, not because it feels good, because it's the foundation of every other capacity. Your focus, your emotional regulation, your decision-making, all of it degrades without adequate rest. Strategic recovery beats constant grinding. You don't earn medals for working yourself into exhaustion. You earn progress by knowing when to push and when to restore. Rest is not weakness. Rest is preparation for the next sprint. Clarity beats effort. An hour spent getting clear on your priorities is worth more than 10 hours spent busy on the wrong things. Environment beats willpower. If you're relying on discipline to overcome a terrible environment, you're making everything harder than it needs to be. Change the context. Remove friction. Make the right choice, the easy choice. Rhythm beats intensity. You don't need maximum effort. You need consistent rhythm. The same wake time. The same work blocks. The same recovery practices. Rhythm creates momentum. Intensity creates burnout. Your state creates your schedule. So manage your state first. This isn't about being soft. This isn't about making excuses. This is about being strategic. Because the leader who burns out serves no one. The leader who manages their energy serves the mission for decades. You're not a machine. You're a biological system with needs, with rhythms, with limits. And pretending otherwise doesn't make you disciplined. It makes you reckless. So stop glorifying exhaustion. Stop treating burnout as a badge of honor. Stop forcing effort when you need to restore energy. Instead, become someone who understands the difference between strategic intensity and unsustainable grinding. Someone who knows when to sprint and when to recover. Someone who leads themselves with wisdom, not just willpower. You're not lazy. You're misaligned. Fix the alignment, and the action becomes natural. Manage your energy, and discipline stops feeling like force. Lead yourself like you're running a marathon, not a sprint. Because this isn't about what you can do for a week. It's about what you can sustain for a lifetime. And that requires energy management, not just effort management. Chapter 7. The Inner War. Every day you wake up to a negotiation between your higher and lower self. Your higher self knows what needs to be done. It sees the long game. It values growth over comfort. It's willing to sacrifice the easy now for the meaningful later. Your lower self wants ease. It wants comfort. It wants to avoid pain and pursue pleasure. It's not evil. It's just evolutionary programming designed to conserve energy and avoid threat. And every single day, these two parts of you go to war. The alarm goes off. Higher self says rise. Lower self says sleep. The work gets hard. Higher self says persist. Lower self says quit. The choice is uncomfortable. Higher self says grow. Lower self says hide. This is the inner war, and it never ends. Ever. Even the most disciplined people on earth fight this battle. The difference is they've learned to win it consistently, not through superhuman willpower, through daily victory. Because discipline is not about winning once. It's about winning daily. Small battles, repeated forever. One command followed creates another. That's momentum. Think about the mornings you won the first battle. You rose when you said you would. And what happened next? The next battle was easier. The workout felt possible. The work felt manageable. The discipline cascaded through your day. Now think about the mornings you lost. You hit snooze. You negotiated. You delayed. And what happened next? Every subsequent battle became harder. The willpower was depleted. The day felt like a struggle from the start. The first battle sets the tone, not because it's the most important, but because victory creates momentum, and defeat creates resistance. So here's the strategy. Win the first hour. Don't worry about the whole day. Don't think about the week. Just win the first hour. Rise when you said you would. Move your body. Hydrate. Eat something real. Get into a focused state before you check your phone. Win that hour, and the rest becomes easier. Not because discipline gets easier, but because you've built momentum. Momentum is invisible, but it's everything. It's the difference between pushing a boulder uphill and letting it roll downhill. Same boulder, same person, different momentum. And momentum is built through repeated micro-victories. Every command you follow is a deposit in the bank of self-trust. Every promise you keep strengthens your word. Every battle you win makes the next one more likely. But every negotiation weakens you. Every delay trains hesitation. Every broken promise teaches your nervous system that your word is negotiable. So here's how you win the war. You win the battles. Not all of them. You'll lose sometimes. You're human. But you win more than you lose. You rise more than you fall. You follow through more than you quit. And over time, those wins compound. The momentum builds. The identity solidifies. Until discipline stops feeling like war and starts feeling like peace. Because that's the secret nobody tells you. Discipline is not pain. It's peace earned through order. The pain is in the chaos. The pain is in the constant negotiation. The pain is in not trusting yourself. The pain is in knowing you should act and not acting. But when you win the battles, when you follow through, when you become someone who does what they say, there's peace in that. Peace in knowing you can trust yourself. Peace in knowing you'll show up. Peace in knowing that when you make a commitment, it's real. That peace is earned. It's not given. It doesn't come from affirmations or positive thinking. It comes from daily victory in the inner war. So fight it. every day. Win more than you lose. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Aim for momentum. Aim for becoming someone who wins the battles that matter. And remember, every day you wake up to a negotiation between your higher and lower self. Your job is to lead, to decide, to command, not to negotiate, not to consider, not to debate, to win daily, quietly, consistently. That's the war. That's the victory. That's the path. Chapter 8. The disciplined state. Your breath, your posture, your focus. That's your control panel. Everything we've talked about, the commands, the integrity, the energy management, all of it starts with state. And state is physical before it's mental. You can't think your way into a disciplined state. You have to embody it. You have to feel it in your body, in your breath, in the way you hold yourself. This is the disciplined state, and you can access it anytime, not by forcing, not by grinding, by aligning, still body, sharp mind, steady will. Let's practice right now. Wherever you are, adjust your posture. Sit up straight or stand tall. Drop your shoulders. Lengthen your spine. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice how your breath changes. Notice how your thoughts shift. Notice how your presence solidifies. This is not metaphor. This is physiology. Your body's position sends signals to your brain about your state. Collapsed posture signals defeat. Upright posture signals readiness. So if you want to lead yourself, start by leading your body. Breathe with certainty, not shallow, anxious breathing. Deep, controlled breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 6 counts. Do this 3 times and notice the shift. The noise quiets. The clarity returns. The command becomes possible. Stand like a leader, not arrogant, just present, grounded, solid, like someone who doesn't need to prove anything because they already know who they are. Hold your focus, not scattered across 10 browser tabs and a dozen unfinished thoughts. Concentrated on one thing fully until it's complete. This is the disciplined state. Still, body, sharp mind, steady will. And here's what most people miss. You don't force yourself into this state. You align yourself into it. You don't grit your teeth and muscle through. You adjust your body, regulate your breath, and direct your focus. That's the control panel. Those three inputs control your entire state. And your state controls everything else. When you're in the disciplined state, commands feel natural. Decisions are clear. Action is inevitable. When you're out of it, everything feels hard. Resistance is everywhere. Willpower depletes instantly. So stop trying to discipline a dysregulated nervous system. Stop trying to command from chaos. Stop trying to lead when your body is signaling threat. Instead, regulate first. Then, command. Breathe. Stand. Focus. In that order. Breathe to calm the system. Stand to embody readiness. Focus to direct the energy. This takes 30 seconds, maybe less. And it changes everything. Because discipline without state management is just grinding. But discipline with state management is flow. You're not fighting yourself. You're aligning yourself. You're not forcing action. You're creating the conditions where action feels natural. This is what leaders do. They manage their state before they make decisions. They regulate before they command. They align before they execute. And you can do this anytime. Before a hard conversation, before starting work, before making a difficult choice. Pause. Breathe. Stand tall. Focus. Still body, sharp mind, steady will. That's your control panel. Use it. Because discipline isn't about pushing through chaos. It's about creating order first, then moving from that order. You don't force yourself. You align yourself. And from alignment, everything becomes possible. Chapter 9. Becoming the standard. Don't look for accountability. Become it. By now, you understand the foundations, the language, the energy, the state, the daily battles. But here's the level most people never reach. Becoming the standard. Not chasing it, not aspiring to it. Becoming it. This is the shift from student to teacher, from follower to leader, from someone who needs discipline to someone who embodies it. You no longer chase consistency. You radiate it. Think about the people in your life who just seem solid, who don't need to announce their discipline because it's obvious in everything they do, who keep their word without fanfare, who show up without drama. They're not trying to be disciplined. They just are. That's not genetics. That's not luck. That's identity. They've done the work we've been talking about long enough that it's no longer work. It's just who they are. And here's what happens when you reach that level. You become the lighthouse, not chasing ships, not begging for followers, just shining consistently, steadily, undeniably. And people orient themselves around you, not because you're trying to lead them, but because consistency is magnetic. Integrity is attractive. Discipline is inspiring. You stop needing external validation because you've become your own validation. You stop needing accountability partners because you've become accountable to yourself. You stop looking for standards because you are the standard. This doesn't mean perfection. It means consistency. It means showing up. It means keeping your word. It means being someone others can rely on because you've proven you can rely on yourself. And this level of being changes everything around you. Your relationships improve because people know you mean what you say. Your work improves because you follow through. Your opportunities expand because people trust you with responsibility. But most importantly, your relationship with yourself transforms because you're no longer at war with yourself. You're no longer negotiating. You're no longer questioning whether you'll do what you say. You just do. Because that's who you are. This is the goal. Not to become someone who tries hard, but to become someone who doesn't have to try because discipline is their default state. So how do you get there? The same way you got here. One command at a time. One promise kept at a time. One day, one at a time. There's no shortcut. There's no hack. There's just consistency compounded over time until the identity solidifies. You keep showing up when it's boring. You keep following through when no one's watching. You keep holding yourself to standard when circumstances give you excuses. And one day, you realize it's not hard anymore. It's just what you do. It's who you are. That's when you've become the standard. Not perfect, not flawless, not superhuman, just consistent, reliable, disciplined. And from that place, You don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your life speaks. Your actions prove. Your presence influences. You're not trying to inspire people. You're just being yourself. And yourself is inspiring because you've built something real. So stop looking for accountability. Stop seeking external validation. Stop waiting for someone to check on you. Become the person who doesn't need that. Become the person who holds themselves to standard without witnesses. Become the person who shows up, follows through, and keeps their word as naturally as breathing. Become the lighthouse, not chasing ships, just shining. Because that's what leaders do. They don't ask for permission. They don't need applause. They just lead. Themselves first. Always. Chapter 10. Discipline as legacy. People won't remember what you did when it was easy. They'll remember what you did when it was hard. This is legacy. Not monuments, not achievements, not the highlight reel. Legacy is who you were when no one was watching. What you did when you didn't feel like it. How you showed up when circumstances gave you every reason to quit. Discipline is not about control. It's about becoming someone you can trust. Think about the version of yourself from 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. What would that version think if they could see you now? Not your accomplishments, not your achievements, your character, your consistency, your word. Are you someone they'd be proud to become? Or are you still struggling with the same battles, making the same excuses, breaking the same promises? This is the question that matters. Because discipline isn't measured in moments. It's measured in trajectory. Are you moving toward the person you said you'd be? Or are you negotiating with that vision every day until it becomes just a fantasy you once had? Legacy is built in the boring moments. The Tuesday morning when no one's watching. The difficult choice that no one will ever know about. The promise you keep when breaking it would be easier. These moments don't feel significant. They don't feel like legacy. They feel like nothing. But they're everything. Because each one is a choice between who you are and who you're becoming. Between the person who negotiates and the person who commands. Between someone led by circumstances and someone who leads themselves. Your legacy isn't what you'll do someday. It's what you're doing right now. This moment, this choice, this command followed or ignored. And here's what you need to understand. The person you're becoming is being built right now. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you feel ready. Now. In this moment. With this choice. So, who are you building? Who are you becoming with each decision you make? Are you building someone who can be trusted, or someone who negotiates when things get hard? Are you building someone who leads themselves, or someone who waits for external motivation? Are you building someone with integrity, or someone with intentions? The gap between these two versions of you is discipline, not as force, not as punishment, but as identity. And identity is proven through consistency, through showing up, through keeping your word when it costs you something. This is the work. Not glamorous, not exciting, not something you'll post about or celebrate publicly. Just the quiet, daily practice of being someone you can trust, someone you can rely on, someone whose word means something. And over time, that practice becomes legacy. Not because anyone else notices, but because you've become someone who doesn't need anyone else to notice. You've become someone who leads themselves, who keeps their promises, who does what they say, who shows up when it matters. That's the person people remember, not for what they said, for who they were, not for their talent, for their consistency, not for their potential, for their discipline. So here we are, at the end of this journey and the beginning of yours. You now understand what most people never learn. Discipline is not something you do. It's someone you become. It's not about motivation. It's about command. It's not about intensity. It's about integrity. It's not about force. It's about identity. And that identity is built one choice at a time, one promise kept at a time, one command followed at a time. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You don't need to be fearless. You need to move despite the fear. You don't need to feel ready. You need to act first and let readiness follow. This is who you are now, not who you're trying to become, not who you might be someday. Who you are, right now, in this moment, a leader of yourself first, someone who doesn't negotiate with comfort, who doesn't wait for permission, who doesn't need external motivation because they have internal command, someone whose word means something, whose promises are real, whose commitments are kept, someone who wins the daily battles, who manages their energy, who regulates their state, who speaks in declarations, not questions, someone who builds legacy not through dramatic moments, but through boring consistency. That's you. That's who you've always been underneath the noise, underneath the doubt, underneath the negotiation. And now you remember. So lead yourself, always, in every moment, in every choice, not because it's easy, because it's who you are, not because someone's watching, because you're watching, not because you'll get applause, because you'll get alignment. And that alignment between who you say you are and what you actually do, that's freedom. That's power. That's peace. Discipline is not pain. It's peace earned through order. So go create that order in your mornings, in your choices, in your words, in your commitments. Build the life that matches the identity. Build the identity that matches your highest vision. And remember this: discipline isn't about control. It's about becoming someone you can trust, someone who leads themselves first, always. Because no one can follow someone still negotiating with themselves. You're done negotiating. You lead now. Lead yourself first. The world follows. You don't act disciplined. You are. Stillness is strength. Command is calm. This is who you are. This is who you've always been. Now live like it.